So in spite of wanting to spend today just recuperating from me, I can't. We have a big problem solution with Cinderella. I showed you a little snippet last time of the original half of chapter 1 draft that I started a few years ago, and how this one started and how the writing style was so different, and I didn't recognise my writing style with this one. I've kind of hit a little bit of a stride with that. There were a lot of things that I came to like, her sisters being vastly different in ages to her, her love of her mother's storytelling. This is like the thing for her. We have a royal family who's not a royal family, and Kai, our not prince, very much likes to go and help out in the farms, and on the way he had a conversation with his father that was like, the ambassador is not coming from the 5 provinces, and there was mention of 1,000 isles. 5 provinces were like stand in fantasy-ish China, and 1,000 isles, both names have been used, islands and isles, for Japan. Where I left you off last time is the prince and Hua got sick, and I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to take this from here. They're going to have to meet up again at some point, but I didn't really buy that they were ever going to be romantic, which is fine in the vein of like, this isn't, how far can we take the Cinderella without losing Cinderella? And also, overall I just much prefer what the years ago draft was doing in the original plan. And then we got to this chapter, which is from Wrong's point of view, and the format of Hua and someone else and Hua and someone else I don't think is going to work. There was mention of the 1,000 islands in Wrong's chapter, and I think I'm going to pull this into like a YA dystopian, which is really interesting, and I am actually looking forward to that. I don't quite know how the Hua someone else format chapters are going to work, but I am kind of looking forward to it again. We took a big hit in terms of how much words I got written yesterday. I think it was only 502. Because I didn't really want to touch it. I wasn't sure if I was going to go the dystopian route or not. But like I have been saying, I really like that t-shirt. I really like that t-shirt, and I want it. And this is the closest I've gotten to winning Nano, and I'm determined to win. So dystopian it is then. So we had the last prompt chapter, which was 21, and then I did 22, which I'm pretty sure is finished, but I don't really remember because I got over 2,000 words and I was like, that's it, I'm done. And despite enjoying it more and knowing that we're going to take it in a certain direction and actually having a direction again, I'm reluctant to get back into it, and I think that's because like it was the 21st, it's the 22nd, and I think I'm just out of steam. But we're going to talk a little bit about the names, because I've been saying we're going to talk about the names from the start. So from that original draft, the family were using English names, and hers wasn't actually Anna, it was Anna. I didn't want to do that here. it was always going to be like a mix of cultures. So I wanted to. I also was like, I always do like fantasy China, and I hone in on like Tang Dynasty or whatever, and I didn't want to do that this time. I wanted to draw from different places and times and kind of mix them all up together. So I thought we'll use Hua because that is in HWA, because that is something that exists as a sound in more than one culture, and it works. Similar to Kai, that works. And then that's why we have someone called Vong, because it sounded vaguely possible as a name. But now now we're back to like actual proper names, and we're like, okay, so we're actually not going to do it this way. We're gonna hone in individually on a character level to specific times and cultures, and then we're going to mix from that, which is what I should have been doing in the first place, let's be honest. We're going dystopian. Maybe dystopian wasn't the right term for it, but we're going into a more kind of typical YA direction. I don't want these kids to like head a revolution. I want them to be like disillusioned with a decision that their monarch made, and it's more about survival than like toppling anything. Yeah, but speaking of names, the 5 provinces that we're talking about, Wuzhou, of course, comes from Zhuozhou, which is the 9 provinces, which was an old name for China. I don't even know why I decided on the Thousand Islands for Japan, because I know that's much more of like a Filipino thing. But we used it, and I actually kind of need to keep it like that now. So it's kind of struck me why I'm really enjoying writing this now, or at least the direction that I'm writing it in. And that is, I've always kind of really loved like the premise of Lost and disaster films, not necessarily their execution. I've never watched Lost, though I am currently watching like a recap series, like history of the production video series by Billiam. I think a more apt thing would probably be like the mobile video game adverts that you see, and it's like, oh, this person washed up on the shore, and then they just walk up to a tree and it's in pieces and they've built a house. And I'm like, no, I actually want to see the process of like cutting down the tree and trying to build a house from someone who doesn't know how to build a house or a shelter. I think that's really fascinating, and the group dynamics in a group setting, like how do you come together and survive? And this isn't a survival thing, this is a, well, I mean, it kind of is. It's like, oh, we've had a flood and the harvest is really probably gone, but also we don't like what our king has done, who he has reached out to. We're really concerned about our people, and we're really concerned about them dividing, because people have taken shelter in the palace, but there's only so much food in the palace, and more survivors are coming, and we don't want them to turn people away. That's not what this island was founded on. What are we going to do? I was actually originally quite concerned with Hua, because I thought, well, the original format of her, like one chapter from her point of view and then another from someone else's, doesn't really work now that it's not a Cinderella retelling. But it does actually, because she is in the group that is wanting to get into the palace. But also, I really like her as someone, because Kai and Vong, who will be renamed at some point, but not in this draft, they were kind of raised as like nobility, and even Hua's mother was like an overseer, and a capacity, and she doesn't have that kind of training though. She wasn't in line to present as an ability, so she wasn't educated in that way. She's very ill, and so I think it's a good contrast of like how these two people who have kind of been raised with an expectation of leadership deal with things, and like the actual reality of how this chronically ill girl is dealing with things. Because I work across a few chapters a day, because they are so short, I think I was last working on chapter 27, and the entirety of that has just been like struck through. I'm not deleting them, I'm still counting the words for Nano, but it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. What I want to do for this chapter is have Hua tell her sister a story, because it's cold and the monsoon season is still ongoing. It's still flooding, and she wants to keep her little sister busy and maybe even make her happy. And as she's doing this, the sister's like, but I want to know more. I want more details. And Hua has talked a little bit about the truth of the stories before, the truth of the stories her ma has told her. But she's also mentioned that one of the aunties has similar stories, but they're not exactly the way her ma told them. And so this is kind of her coming to terms with the fact that stories are very mutable things. I just started reading The Magic Fish, and it is utterly gorgeous and such a beautiful, beautiful story. And it kind of makes me a little bit nervous, because in the sense that this is a story about stories, and stories told between like a parent and child, in my own kind of very clumsy way, I think there is a kind of, I'm not going for what this book is doing, but I was going for something like it, and that is quite intimidating. It is going very slowly, and I am no longer ahead of the daily schedule. So to be clear, that was on Further Words, which is like, oh, you've made a typo 4 words back, we'll just backspace and retype kind of thing. So it's not Nano, not at all. But I was really kind of struggling, and that's kind of given me a boost, and I'm really happy about that. The quote that I just showed you, I chose because that's the problem that I've been having with it. Like, I know what I want them to do. I want them to deal with like this messenger, the idea that they might have to go into hiding possibly, and how they plan to do that, how they plan to protect and feed and all that politics stuff, the people. But I don't have a timeline for it, because we are past the Cinderella retelling. I would still like Hua and Kai to meet again at least, but that's not where we're at. So I've just been really struggling. And so when I started writing this chapter, I was just like, oh yeah, her little brother is there. And then I just decided, oh, we're going to do a detour. We're going to go back to her family, because the whole point of like stories like this is that you care about the people. You need to be honest, actually, I kind of want to also focus in on caring for like politically people that you don't like. But I also really want to show the fact that these are kids who are like taking care of their families and their parents, and also I don't know kind of where to go with it structurally. The next big bit, it's like we're currently writing connective tissue, but we don't have anything to connect to. But it will get me to 50k on Nano, and that's really the only thing I care about at this moment. Do I think I can finish this today? No. Maybe? This chapter is just finishing up, and it's a very interesting one because I didn't realise I was going to go here. In terms of like the sister and the brother and all that, wrong sister, we've in text described those as honorifics, and she's met someone who didn't immediately do it. And I've tried to, because people still call her Chandra Auntie, whether they're Vong or her nephew. But I wanted to kind of make it clear this is a different language thing, so I didn't capitalise it for some of them. And I don't know how well that's going to come across. If we could scrap this entirely. But I kind of wanted her to see that this isn't the ways that you're kind of someone who has engaged in like the dominant mode of language is a little bit taken back by it, and she's doing like good work. She's doing the more boring stuff now. She did want to go and see if she could follow the messenger's trail as far as she could, because she's doing a good thing, but she's also a kid, you know. So that 748 I had to just cross out because that wasn't working. And I'm so mad because I thought I'd done it. I thought I'd crossed the threshold. But I'm actually going to cross it with a side story, which is basically just an unconnected scene. The stepmother, hasn't shown up in a while, and I just wanna kind of know where she is for my own kind of placement and understanding of time. No, that was bad. Terrible way to end this, and I am disappointed that I didn't actually get a finished draft. But I do think the pivot was a bit much. I have, however, now written every day of the month, and we're good. I'm good with that. I will come back to it. I don't know when, but I definitely need a break. I don't think every odd chapter being from Hua's perspective is something that is going to survive. I think it's just too rigid for what I want to do. However, I actually really like the idea of starting off that way, at least, to kind of give the impression that it is going to go for a Cinderella retelling, and then put you in the survival political sphere. I think like emotionally that puts you in line with the characters, that they thought this was going to be a big celebration and they were so excited, and suddenly they are hungry and cold and afraid and completely taken by surprise and trying their very, very best to not only deal with it but manage it and survive it. I really like that, but I don't think that makes for great structure. I did also say in my last video that I have a winter project, and there is the start of a playlist for it. It is very gothic. I was inspired by one of S.D. Gibson's, I don't want to say tweet, I think it was a Tumblr post. So that kind of mood. I don't know if I want to write that. However, I think I did the October prompts, which was writing daily, and I've done this in November. I don't really think I have it in me to keep doing this in December, but we're going to pivot, and we are definitely going to do more of the free-to-read serial fiction that you can find on my blog, Tales of Duran and Others. It is contemporary fantasy in a secondary world. Okay, enough shilling. Thank you for watching. Good night.